Good evening. Uh, we'll take the King of Hearts first. Now, it would be very important if we could understand this card, and slowly as we progress on the spiritual path, to awaken the qualities of the King of Hearts within us, so that uh, we sort of live those qualities in our daily life and also practice our spiritual development. So, this is the best card of the whole lot. And the other kings and other queens can also come in support of the King of Hearts, like the Queen of Hearts can come into support. So, it would be a very important card to understand. Now, the key phrase is the queen wants to be loved and the king wants to give love, right? So, this is the key phrase in the emotional part of the emotional center. The Queen of Hearts wants other people to understand her. If it is the husband or wife, you would keep on telling the husband or wife that you don't understand me, right? That is the Queen of Hearts. But the King of Hearts is wanting to understand the other, right? So it's a big difference over here. Uh, it is that card which appreciates the what you call aesthetic side of life, the higher side of life, the beauty side of life, right? So it is that card which is, but it can also become an ego, that I appreciate classical music and I appreciate this, right? But it is that card which allows us to appreciate the higher side of life. It enjoys being with friends, but is equally, it can enjoy itself just if it is alone. It doesn't have to always be with friends. And is never a slave of friends and is never possessive about his friends, that they should listen to him or anything. So, the search for higher meaning in life, that ordinary life is not just what we want to live, there is something more to life. I want to search for that truth, that higher meaning. It starts in the Queen of Hearts, but if it remains in the Queen of Hearts, after some time that person will get bored and give it up, whilst it must transfer to the King of Hearts. It requires a high level of attention to remain in this card, right? We can't go into daydreaming or, brooding about the past or something. To remain in this card, you have to be in the present moment. So there is understanding of life, right, which science does, and there's understanding of self, and understanding of self begins in the King of Hearts. Because it is hearts, it's a very soft understanding. It is never an aggressive understanding. You never want to force your understanding upon somebody else. You don't want to, uh, what do you call, unless somebody asks you or there's a window open, you don't want to talk about it with friends. Now, understanding, we know, is that it is a function of the emotional center. That is, uh, we know through the intellectual center, but we understand through the emotional center. So we have personality, false personality, right? And the understanding of the false personality is to show off, right? That I do meditation and I do this and I do Reiki and all that is all the false personality, the imaginary part of us. But the understanding in the king, right, is total understanding of self, right? He has the full map of spirituality, what he wants to understand, how he wants to go there, and he also has the map of where he wants to reach. So we are attracted to higher meaning in life, right? Everybody lives life for some meaning. If there is no meaning in life, then those people commit suicide. So we are always searching for meaning in life. And the King of Hearts is where we are searching for higher meaning. So in a situation, the queen will criticize and find fault, right? But the king will always look at in everything in perspective, in scale. It will like try to open the higher side of a person, right? So that's the king. So the queen may say that all rituals are nonsense, right? All religious rituals and everything is nonsense. But the king won't say they are nonsense. He will try to go into them and find out if there's a what you call truth behind them, if there's a science behind them or not. So in books, religious books, in temples, in art, in literature, he can easily understand those parts which contain higher meaning, right? So when he goes to look at a work of art or a temple, a sculpture in a temple, he understands what that sculpture is saying and how the higher meaning is reflected in that statue, in that work of art. So he has a new kind of sensitivity to higher knowledge. And once that eye, that perception is opened up in the king, he can see higher knowledge everywhere, in whatever place he visits and sees. So the queen loves to have friends. She is very concerned about other people. She is connected to them. She wants to enjoy life with other people. But anytime she may get bored of somebody and just drop that person. But in the king, there is a genuine soft concern. There is no attachment to that person. But the minute our effort to hold attention ceases in the king, it falls to the queen. It falls to the queen. So many times when we help someone, we have real concern for that person. So this is the king, right? We are holding our attention, helping that person. But after a year, if that person has not thanked us or not called us in a year, then we fall to the queen and say that we have not been appreciated properly, right? So the queen seeks appreciation. The king does not seek appreciation. So in the king, there is an intentional effort to rise above the lower side of life. And he loves refined impressions in life. He doesn't like the lower impressions in life that, what come on TV and all that, but he wants more refined, higher impressions in life. So the Queen of Hearts and the Jack of Hearts may be what you call attracted to disco music, right? But the King of Hearts may not be attracted to disco music. He will seek something much higher. Even when he looks at a painting or something, he will see that whether this painting is attracting the lower animal side of life, awakening the animal side of life, or whether the painting is attracting something higher within us. They usually decorate their house in a very different way, more mystical way, uh, concerned with the mystery of life. That is how they decorate their house. That does not mean they reject the lower things, the ordinary beauty of decoration, but they are always trying to find a higher form of decoration. Now, every impression which comes in is a ratio of the three forces. It contains tamas, rajas, and sattva, and it has certain energies inside it. And the king is always trying to refine the impression more towards the sattva side of life, right? So he will, out of each impression, he will try to extract some higher understanding, some higher understanding. That is the sattva side of life. So when he, supposing he's drinking tea, the king, then he would like his own cup, a good bone china cup or something, and enjoy the tea in that bone china cup. But that does not mean if somebody gives him a plastic cup, he'll reject the plastic cup. He'll accept that too. But the very act of drinking tea, he will refine it to a higher purpose, This is the most creative part, and as this, what do you call, disciple progresses on the spiritual path, this inner creativity to create new techniques of meditation, new ways to, what do you call, express the truth, new ways to understand the different colors which come into truth, right? And that is the creativity of the disciple which comes in. See, the guru gives a certain part, and then it is the disciple's creativity to work upon it and to, what do you call, enrich it in different ways. So we saw in the Queen of Clubs that they can be fashion designers, right? The Queen of Clubs. But when you come to the King of Hearts, right, they can be fashion designers, but with a very, very refined and or mystical higher taste in their designs. So if we take a technically correct musician, it would be the Jack of Spades or the King of Spades. But sometimes when that inner creativity comes in, they shift to the King of Hearts and they express something very beautiful which touches the heart, right? You see some musicians, the sounds touch your heart directly. The sounds touch your heart directly. And some are very technically very, very perfect, very perfect. But they don't touch the depth of your heart so much as some other musicians, right? And people who are centered here, they are very difficult to recognize. And sometimes they feel devoid of emotion, absolutely, even though the King of Hearts is emotion, but they look devoid of. They are cool, detached, very difficult to approach. So when they are difficult to approach, people think it is they don't have any emotional, what do you call, feeling inside. So if the King of Hearts enters into a relationship, then it can create problems in the sense if the other person is the in the relationship is a demanding kind of person who wants to be appreciated all the time, hello darling and hello this and all the time, then it could create he or she would feel that the other person has no feeling at all. They enjoy, they enjoy being alone. If they go to a museum or art gallery, they want to be on their own to understand things deeper. If the queen goes to a museum, it's like a picnic, right? She will go with friends and everything and have a good time together. And they like to talk and eat together. Now, once this card awakens within us, there is communication with the other kings, the three other kings, and we can use the three other kings. So, supposing we are looking at a piece of sculpture, a statue or something, and we are appreciating the statue, then the King of Spades may come in and give the different ratios which are in the statue. Like supposing you're looking at the work of Leonardo, then in Leonardo, everything is in the Fibonacci ratios, right? So the King of Spades would come and interpret those ratios, right? And the King of Spades may also tell how these ratios can lead to some mystic developments, right? The King of Diamonds may come in and may reveal some uh, astrological connections to that statue, right? So if you're looking at the statue and the nose is long, then the King of Diamonds may come in and say the nose is a lunar nose. Or if the nose is round and big, then it will say it is a what you call a jovial Jupiter nose, right? So you're looking at a statue. First, the King of Hearts appreciates the work. Then the King of Spades may come in with the different ratios and measurements. And the King of Diamonds may explain a different side, a different science to that work of art. There's an aesthetic awareness automatic in the King of Hearts, and that when it combines with the King of Spades, it brings a sense of proportion, right? A sense of proportion. So you see, go to many people's homes, you can see they have a beautiful sense of proportion, right? I mean, everything sort of will fit in the walls, to the sofas, to the arrangement. Everything has a certain sense of proportion. Sense of relativity. Sense of relativity. Uh, you know, let's uh, take value in two ways. Two ways. Supposing I have a beautiful painting, right? And I keep it in a locker room because it is a very costly painting, right? So then this painting is not taking part in the drama of life. Can you understand? It's not taking part in the drama of life, right? But if I put the painting in a place where more and more people can see it, then it is taking part in the drama of life. Now, the painting may be very costly, right? But because it is not taking part in the drama of life, its vibrational value is very low. You understand what I'm trying to say, right? So, when you have this sense of proportion, the King of Hearts, then you arrange things in a way where they take part in the drama of life. But if I put it in one corner, then it's not really taking part in the drama of life. The queens cannot work together. The queen of spades and the queen of hearts can never work together. They'll fight with each other, right? But the kings can work together with the king of hearts. And this is where with consciousness, if you have this card with the opening to consciousness, then it brings a beautiful balance between the spiritual side and the material side in life. So we have two higher centers, those which see the truth and those which know the laws of truth, the higher emotional and the higher thinking center. And the King of Hearts is the doorway to both the higher centers. So in life we must work to strengthen the king within us, especially the King of Hearts. We must work towards strengthening the king. And then the desire to divide attention and keep one attention on the self and one in the play of life, and to rise in the what you call ladder of self-consciousness, that comes from the King of Hearts. Now, whenever we make an effort to come into the present moment using the energy of sensitivity, and the energy of sensitivity is clubs, we've not yet come into clubs, right? Then in the present moment we are for some time in the King of Hearts. We are some time in the King of Hearts. So in the king there is always the feeling there is more to understand, there is much more to understand. It never feels it has understood something. So he says, I've understood relative to this level, but relative to a different level, still there is more to understand. And the more we practice being free from negative emotions, not reacting, not expressing negative emotions, the closer and closer we come to the King of Hearts. Now, another way to awaken the King of Hearts is every day to do something for the finer side of life. That is either art or music or something of that, so appreciate some deeper kind of music. And as we practice that every day, we slowly move towards the king. Another thing is that when we study the works of people who have conscious minds who have gone up before us, like we're studying the Gita or something, again that takes us towards the King of Hearts. But one thing we must understand is too many fine impressions can lead to dullness. So if we go to see an art exhibition, after about half an hour or 1 hour, we have to relax for a cup of coffee or something. Otherwise, we won't be able to take in the impressions of the other works of art. So after you are viewing something for an hour, understanding it, then you sit down, have a cup of coffee, wait for some time, and again, then otherwise it will just lead to, then you won't be taking in anything, you'll just be looking at it without taking in anything. And this happens a lot on conducted tours, right? So they take you one place, go see this, see this, see this, backpack you up again in the bus or wherever, then take you there, see this, see this. Then after the third day, you don't know what you're seeing only, right? So it happens. Because the mind then cannot take in any more impressions. Too many impressions are coming. If we live in a state of thankfulness, we live in a state of appreciation, then we are living in the King of Hearts. Now, all the energy of the body is controlled by the instinctive center. So we'll see that later on, right? And the instinctive king, it can never mix with the King of Hearts because it always feels that listening to music, doing this is a waste of energy and he's wasting all the energy of the body. Now all the jacks, you see in the jacks there is no effort because there is sanskar over there, memory patterns over there, habit over there. And in habit, you make no effort. Everything just repeats in the habit. But in the king, there is no habit, right? So you have to make the effort over there. So as we make a conscious effort to bring rhythm and balance in our lives, to bring harmony in our lives, harmony between the centers in our life, right? Uh, then we slowly come into the King of Hearts.
So, everyday refining exercise.
Hmm.
The refining exercise every day, 10 minutes, would be a example of
Yeah,
King of
yeah.
Hearts, right?
But we can also do it just with the Jack of Spades.
Hmm.
But if we bring sensitivity, then we come into the present moment and we are doing it, then we are in the King of
King of Hearts.
Hearts. Then if we bring in a ratio and understanding that we relaxation and all, that not tensing the unnecessary muscles which have not to be tensed, relaxing them. So then we are in the King of Hearts and using the other cards at the same time. Right? So once we can bring harmony in the centers, rhythm in the centers, then the higher intelligence descends for us and it fills the centers inside. And we see a new unity in life, a new interdependence in life. Now, the problem over here is that the king can take us to the boundary line of consciousness, but then we have to move into consciousness above the king. And here, if the ego comes in, then the king will feel that I am conscious and will not make the effort to move into consciousness. So, here, that what do you call small, what do you call remains over here, that weakness over here. So that high state of attention may give us a false feeling of consciousness, that I am conscious, right? And because we appreciate life in its higher sense, the higher things in life, it may give us a feeling of superiority, right? And then we can't move to the conscious side, then we get stuck in the ego over here, right?
So, how to counter that that feeling of superiority?
When you understand the deeper aspects of music, the deeper aspects of life, right, and that mystery, don't allow it to become a part of your ego. Don't become aggressive about it. I know, right? The minute that comes in, then you won't move to the conscious side. You won't move to the conscious side, right? So you see, many people, they live a very refined life, but they have a big ego about it. They won't, what do you call, move into the, they feel they already know. They already know.
Bringing harmony in all the centers. So when we talk about bringing harmony in all the centers, does it mean we have to be in all the kings? We have to reach to the level of all the kings there, or?
Not exactly, but we have to be free of the negative swings of all the centers.
All the centers,
All
okay.
the centers, right? But we would like to awaken the King of Hearts.
Heart.
Can you see, if we go from the King of Spades, right? So we may have what you call good movements and all that, but we will never move into the higher side of life, right? But can move to the conscious side, right? Thank you. So, usually in life we say, I have a right to be angry. But the King of Hearts says, I have a right not to be angry. Right? So here everything changes over here. And in the King of Hearts, will which is a possession of the soul and was taken away by the machine, kidnapped by the machine, comes back to the soul when we are in the King of Hearts. Another thing that happens in the King of Hearts is that there is a different way of knowing. Knowing is not thinking. Knowing is many times knowing without thinking. Knowing, there's a perception without thinking. Even in the Queen, she can perceive that her son is ill. But here it becomes a more universal perception in the, King of Hearts. He can see the truth of something. And sometimes a flash of knowing in the King of Hearts, in the intellectual part of the emotional center, and then if it is given to the King of Diamonds, it would take hours for the King of Diamonds to write it down. You get it? And so here knowledge comes in a flash. It's just a direct transmission over here. So we don't know whether, because there are 700 slokas in the Gita, and we don't know whether really Krishna said all those slokas or he gave it in a flash. We don't really know. And then the King of Diamonds came in, that is Sanjay, right? And he said slok by slok. So we live in the world of causes and effects, right? And when we rise in consciousness, then the consciousness itself becomes a cause for a new effect. Can you see? So as long as we are living in that plane of life, mechanical life brings a mechanical effect, mechanical life, but the moment we pause our mechanicalness and we invest in consciousness at that moment, that new seed of consciousness brings a new form of life to us. Now, supposing we take time as a wire, right? So we have life as a circle from birth to death. So, and we are moving on this circle from birth to death. And at this point we bring in consciousness, right? And you take consciousness as heat. Take consciousness as heat, right? So we sow the seed of consciousness over here in the circle, and this is going to change what is going to come in the future. But heat in the wire also goes in the past. Can you see? So a moment of consciousness here not only changes the future, it also changes the past, and this is very difficult to understand, right? Right. So consciousness being an effect now, right, but becomes a cause in the past, and this is very difficult to understand. And later on, if we can realize that it is not just a wire, but it is a cone, like an iron rod. It is a cone like an iron rod. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? And each ring of the wire is one lifetime. Each ring of the wire is one lifetime.
So it becomes like a spiral.
Like a spiral.
Going towards
So
a point.
that moment of consciousness not only changes the future in the wire, but it also changes the past in the wire, but it also changes the whole movement in the spiral. Depends on the intensity of consciousness. Can you get what I'm just saying? So it will not just pass heat in the wire, it will pass heat after some time throughout the whole iron rod, throughout the whole iron rod, right? And that is why one moment of consciousness becomes a transforming moment in all dimensions, in all dimensions. Right?
What will be the example of changing the past?
Hmm?
Like, what does it mean by changing the past? I mean, what example would it be?
I'll give you some real examples, so it may help you to understand that there's one lady who comes, and she and her husband separated many years ago, and her husband was in Africa, and one son was with the husband in Africa, and one son was with her in India. Then when the son became about, I think, 28 or 29 years old, he wanted to visit his father in Africa. So he went to visit his father in Africa, and then he died in a car accident over there. So this lady is totally alone now, right? So how does she help her son who is gone? This is the past, right? This is the past, right? Now, see, I'm just giving this example of a circle, but you see at every point there are crisscrosses. Your time crosses mine, my time crosses yours. Can you understand? Right? So, if someone creates heat, which is consciousness, in this point of the wire, right, then all those people who are connected with that person, that consciousness is going to affect them, wherever they are. Can you get it? So I said, instead of just doing rituals for him, right, you can light a ghee lamp for him every day and all, but if you sit and you rise to a higher level, then wherever he is helped. He is helped, right? Because in time we are connected, and if you create heat in this wire over here, it goes through the whole rod and all our connections, right? And you will see this also, that as you go on your spiritual journey, things will change in your life. Some friends will go away. Some new friends will come. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? Right? And you are not doing anything. You are not doing anything. You will be shocked that you want to meditate or want to spend some time alone, or you want to, do some studies or something of that sort. And suddenly conditions will become what you call favorable, where you can do it. How they became, you don't know. Can you understand? So it is that what you call progress in consciousness, which is connecting all those lines of time, and it will be shutting off some lines of time and creating some new connections elsewhere, right? And we won't even know how it is happening, right? So and many times people, they get upset that as if their old life has gone away, and they feel sort of hanging in the air somewhere. Right? Say the Gayatri Mantra. You say the Gayatri Mantra, right? So now one of the effects of the Gayatri Mantra is it compresses karma. Understand what I'm trying to say? Right? So if so much pain was going to be stretched over 3 lifetimes, it will compress karma and all that pain will come together. Can you get it? And we'll say, well, I did the Gayatri Mantra for happiness. You understand what I'm saying? But if we are conscious, we'll realize that this karma is compressed and we are able to rise above it.
So So when we are talking about spiral, so one coil is one lifetime.
It has to be observed within yourself.
Within, yeah.
Okay, now we'll go to, you see, we are sort of fixated that the line of time is, but the law is the same right down to the smallest cell or the smallest amoeba. The law will not change, right? So again, we can take anger, right? So at this point, I got angry, right? So now I'm moving around, and anger is made of anger is made of the material of Mars, say. So definitely it has an astrological
Connection.
cycle in which it is moving, right? So it is going in a certain cycle, and I say at this point over here, which is very far from this point where I got angry, right? That I am not angry anymore. I am not angry anymore. But when I come back to this point, suddenly I see I've become
Angry.
angry, and I'm wondering what has happened. What has happened over there? Now, if I can separate a little from that anger, I'll see that it is not a circle, it is a spiral movement. There is a little difference between this anger and that anger. Can you get what I'm trying to say? And I'll see I've progressed that one step, even though I'm still getting angry, right? I've progressed that one step. So it is the same spiral of life and death.
Death.
So when I'm observing my inner negative emotions, I'm observing everything is moving in this spiral movement.
Movement. But that
And I suddenly become aware of the laws of the spiral
spiral,
movement.
yeah.
Right?
So does it mean that all the coils of spirals are really closely connected? So when you say it affects the past, suppose I've raised in consciousness, and it not only affects the future, but it affects the past as well. So when I'm passing through that point, so the cause has changed there, so effect will be different there, is it?
No, I'm not getting it again.
No, sorry. So when
You want to draw it on the board? Or?
no, I'm just wondering. Okay, we can draw on the board. So.
Can you shift it a little? Angle. So I can see also.
Yeah. So when you say that if this is, so if we do like, this kind of spiral, right? And
Right.
going down like that. So if, sorry, if you can see that. So when I'm conscious here, for example,
Right.
and it changes, these are my future events and
Right.
these are my past events, right?
Right.
So when heat is changing this as well and that as well, that means when I'm coming to second circle like that and passing that point, they're sort of crisscrossed, interconnected. So the cause has changed here, so effect will be different.
Let me just show you. Right? So I'm conscious, you're saying, at this point. Right? Huh? So because it is, we are taking the example of a wire, we are saying heat will go here and heat will go here. Right? But you see, this is a, what do you call, spiral movement. Can you see? So heat is also going to go
That way.
here. So when I'm again in my next life at this same point over here, the heat has, before I have reached there, the heat has reached over there. Can you see? And at that moment, there'll be a sudden flash of consciousness.
Consciousness. But then that cause has changed, so effect will be different there, right?
What?
The cause, it would change the cause, right, there?
Yeah.
Because of the heat.
Right.
So the effect at that point, when I come to
It
that
has to be
point,
different.
It will be different.
It has to be different. So, if say in this life, if I met the teaching when I was 20 years old, then in the next life it would, I may meet it when I'm 10 years old.
Okay.
Can you get it? Right. So, because of that movement of heat over there.
But because it's a spiral, the opposite can also happen. So if I'm not conscious at a particular, when the teaching has come, though it could affect it in the opposite way as well, correct? For example, let's say que, there's a teaching that has come to you at a particular point in your life, and maybe you were ready to receive it, but you didn't receive it for whatever reason. Then in the next life, perhaps is that, right? That would have an effect that I wasn't receptive. Or even in anger, like if I have one moment of anger here and I'm conscious in it, great, then I am spiraling to a tighter spiral, to a higher vibration. But if I'm constantly reacting, constantly getting angry, I could also go lower. As in, I'm accumulating more.
You live lower. You won't go lower.
Right, okay.
You
Yes,
understand? You
yes.
cannot go lower,
Right,
but you will live lower.
right, yes.
Okay, you said you cannot become an animal again,
No,
but you can
no.
definitely live like an animal.
Sure, yeah.
You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I mean, I would invite more events into my life which
Yeah, which will hold you
are
into
going
that
to hold
animalism.
me in that.
And which will hold you into that animalism.
Correct,
Which will hold
yeah.
you into that. It'll crystallize.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll crystallize.
So it may take even longer at that point to get out of that crystallization. Is that correct?
See, if we apply normal rules, it'll take longer.
Okay.
Can you understand what I'm
Yes.
trying to say? But if you, in a moment of understanding, you just jump out of it, then you can, your journey has already started at a very different scale, a very different scale. And we have so many examples, no?
Yes,
Valmiki was a dacoit.
Yes.
He became Valmiki Rishi overnight, right? In Buddhism, we have a very famous example. What's the name of the Angulibal? We have the of Angulibal, right? In Buddhism, we have the very famous example, and there are so many of these examples, right? In Gujarat, we have the very famous example of Jaisal and Toral. Jaisal was a dacoit, right? And then Toral transformed him into this thing. So.
And is that because the energy of consciousness is so intense compared to the energy of anger or the negative
It's
tendencies?
the sleeping soul, how much of a shock
Can
and
it take?
gets to wake it up.
Yeah.
Gets to wake it up. Right?
So in that case, then we must be able to hold that. Hold
in
that-
that moment, it has to work. It has to work in that moment. We must be not hold, but we must be receptive to it.
And so your entire journey is also to become receptive to where in that moment, whenever it may come,
Wherever
you're
it comes,
ready.
You're ready for that.
Okay, yeah.
Which other famous example? Tulsidas,
Yes,
right?
with his wife.
He went to his wife, and there was no complaining.
Yeah.
There was no complaining. He could have easily said that I came to the storm to meet you and all, and this is what you're telling. Normally it would be like that. Yeah, this is the way. And what she said just went through, and the soul awakened at that moment, right? So the soul awakes through shocks. The soul awakes through shocks. We buffer the shocks.
Is it because the shocks are also a vehicle of tanmatras, which are like, you said they're divine energy, so they must be from swaha. So they must have, and I mean, is that what the shocks are filled with that intense?
Yeah, and it just, in that moment, if you're receptive enough, it goes through.
It goes through.
Goes through it, right? Right. Because from Tulsidas' side, there was no complaint. I jumped over a dead body and I came over a flood and I climbed a snake to meet you and all that, right? And this is, you should what do you call, welcome me, right? He just in that moment, the shock awakened the soul. He understood the whole thing and he left in that moment. And it's one of the very beautiful stories, very beautiful stories.
I think it's harder to understand because we're so conditioned with time being like physical changes. So if I want to lose weight or if I want to gain weight, it takes time. It
Right.
takes effort, it takes time. So it would take me 3 months for a visible effect or whatever. But this is different. This is a flash of understanding can be in the present, like it's in the present moment.
It's how, what is the intensity in the present moment? What is the intensity in the present moment? Can you get
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
What I was saying, right? And you see, we understand time as months and years and seconds or whatever, right? But that is not time, that is arbitrary time, that is man-made time. Time is the unfolding of energy. Can you understand? It's the unfolding of energy. So, the energy of birth and the energy of death are the same thing. Can you get what I'm trying to say? So, the time of birth and the time of death are the same. It's very difficult to understand this because we are so conditioned that 70 years have passed in time between birth and death. How can the time of birth and the time of death be the same? But because they are the same energy, they are the same time. Okay, so we, in this, yeah, anything else you want? Right. So in this card we'll have 3 cards, 8, 9 and 10. So 8 will be the appreciation of beauty, the ability to improve upon the impression. So you have raw food, right? And but when you're cooking the food, you're improving upon the impression of the raw food. Can you see?
Yes.
Right. So when I was very young, that was there used to be in a magazine called Filmfare at that time, and I must have been 10 or 11, and there was this thing, what do you call, interview of Sadhana. At that time, she was a big actress, right? And so somebody asked in that interview, the interviewer is asking her, why do you use makeup? So he says, God has created the human being, but can we improve upon what God has created? Right? And what a beautiful answer she gave. Right? Can we improve upon that? Right? So when we are cooking food, we are improving upon what nature has. Not only that, we are adding the emotional center, we are adding the creativity, adding the king of hearts, right inside. So that impression which is going in is becoming richer and richer inside. So in the 8 card, the ability to make impressions richer, right? To make impressions richer. And that can be done in flower arrangements, setting the tables, when you give gifts to people, right? This is the seat, number 9, is where we are interested in the higher things in life, the mystery of life, right? The value of waking up to the dream of life, rising in consciousness. And there is a willingness to suffer for consciousness. There is a willingness to suffer for consciousness. Even physical pain we are willing to suffer for consciousness. And we understand the value of suffering, right? The value of suffering. And in the 10, we can take an impression inside and see where this impression can be transformed into something higher. At what point can we add something to this impression to transform it into something? And in the 10, we understand the very subtle causes of things in life, the very subtle causes of things in life. Right? So, the King of Hearts, most important of all the cards. Those, you know. I wanted to say something, but I left. Coffee. Yeah. So we'll go through the instinctive center. Right? So this is the center which keeps us alive. Right? And the basic machinery of everything in the body-brain system. And it never sleeps, it functions all 24 hours. So it is the only function working when we are asleep. The blood circulation, the digestion, fighting of disease, healing the body, looking after the temperature of the body, causing the secretions in the glands, sometimes modifying this, sometimes increasing this, sometimes supplying this. All this is done automatically by the instinctive center. So this is way beyond the intellectual center, right? You just imagine if you eat your food and then the intellectual center was asked how much of hydrochloric acid to put in to digest, it would mess up everything. So the instinctive center it's one of the wonders of nature. It functions just on its own. The instinctive center is not digital like the, what do you call, intellectual center. And it can do many things simultaneously at the same time. But it has a positive and negative side. So the positive side tells you that an impression is safe, pleasurable, of wellness, of good health. The negative side informs you of danger, right? And uncomfortable impressions and the possibility that we are going to fall ill. It gives us a kind of feeling that we are going to fall ill. This is one center we do not want to observe much. We don't want to interfere in its workings. We don't want to observe much. And it controls all the energy of the body, all the energy. And see, one of the things we must practice observation with ourselves and with others when we fall ill. When we fall ill. And this time the instinctive center does not give us energy for observation when we are ill. Now, supposing there's someone, and what to in English I don't know, but if you say in Gujarati, ke nani nani vaat ma kach kach karya kare. What do you? In English it's difficult, but she's snappish. What do you say in English? She's snappish. And put the dishes properly. Put this. You've not done this, and the whole day, what do you call? Now, so this is the negative part of the emotional center. The negative part of the emotional center. Now, say that person falls ill, right? And the instinctive center cuts off energy to the emotional center. Suddenly she's not bothered about where you put the dishes. Can you understand? Yeah. Right? Where you put your shoes, whether you had a bath or whether things are arranged properly, right? There's a sannyas, right? Okay. So when we fall ill, there must be observation of the instinctive center, because at that time many of our habits just drop at that moment, just to preserve the energy and healing of the body, right? And that, if we can do that, it brings a great understanding. Second thing, I just want to add something over here, that whatever we do when we suffer becomes permanent. So now I'm in deep pain, say physical pain, right? So at that time, if I'm complaining all the time, that doctor is not giving me a what you call painkiller, or this is not happening and that is not happening, then the habit of complaining, the pattern of complaining becomes stronger, very strong. But at that moment, if I practice three-step rhythmic breathing, if I practice consciousness, then what I can achieve in a few hours of pain may take couple of years in normal time. And that is why suffering is very important. Suffering is very valuable, right? Right.
Why is that, Rajan Bhai?
Huh?
Why is it that when you suffer, that those habits become more strong or more permanent?
Yeah, because you're very close to the core of your being at that time when you suffer. You're very close to the core of your being at that time, right? Many years ago, I'm talking about now, it's more than 20 years, that I had this whole group of youngsters who were taking drugs, and they were all with me for a long time. They dispersed, very few of them come now. And I worked with them for a couple of years. And there was one guy, very angry guy. He would get angry at the small area and he would blah. You never seen such anger. And when he came to me, he used to take 50 sleeping pills for breakfast, 50 sleeping pills for lunch, and 50 sleeping pills for what do you call dinner, right? And two people had to hold him when he came to me. Then he started these exercises and everything, gave up all the pills and got better. And then he was enjoying life because he had a very good job, well-paying job and all that. So he would change his girlfriend every 2-3 months, and every 2-3 months he would come and say, "I want to marry this girl," right? And then after 2-3 months again he would come. So one day he brought one girl, and girl, her attention and the quality of her aura was so different. So I said that you go for a walk. I want to talk to her alone. So, so he went left, and she was alone with me. And then I said that you just tell me the story of your life. I just want to listen. So she said that when I was 22, I was in an arranged marriage, which was my husband used to beat me like anything, like, they was very violent with her. So then she went back home, and her father said that you can't come home, whatever is there, you have to suffer it and go back to your husband, right? So she went back to her husband. And then she couldn't bear it any longer, so they were living on the 6th floor, so she jumped out of the 6th floor balcony, right? And she survived. But she was in hospital for one operation after the other for a year, and in deep pain, she suddenly I saw the meaning of life, right? Mm-hmm. And there was a flash of understanding in that deep pain. And I saw that my husband was not hitting me. I had invited him to hit me. It was my sanskars which had invited him. At that moment, there was total forgiveness of everything, right? And so for me now, life, I'm just looking at life. But if this guy gets angry, I just see a young child crying, right? Okay. I mean, it doesn't affect me in any way, right? Of course, he changed his girlfriend after 3 months again. But what I'm trying to say is that, in deep pain, you get insights into the depth of life. You come very close to the core of your being. So,
And is that because when you're in deep pain, most of the other mental chatter, except for what's having to do with the pain,
You're
pretty much
one-pointed.
goes away?
You're at one
Yeah,
pointed
you're at
attention.
one pointed
Yeah.
attention.
You're one pointed attention. Right. and it fixes consciousness. So it fixes consciousness for this life and for the next life. And that is why Christ accepted going on the cross, to fix that consciousness over there. Right? And it is not as if he could not have escaped. He heard the soldiers coming to arrest him. And he's telling his disciples that before they arrest me, let me go to welcome them. You know, so it's a different this thing. So when we fall ill, this center stops energy to all the other centers, right? It will stop to the moving center, so our muscles will feel tired, and we'll feel like lying down, right? If it stops to the emotional center, we'll quieten down, we won't feel like talking, whilst we may be a talkative person all the time otherwise. And because the emotional center identifies easily the queen, right? We don't identify with it. In illness, a certain detachment to life comes automatically. And sometimes in a deep illness, even that basic energy for control of thoughts is also lost, and people can start blabbering, and because the instinctive center is not even giving that basic energy to control thought. And we have seen many people who are on the verge of death, very terminally ill, and when they come back, they have a totally different understanding of death and life. So, possessiveness, jealousy, importance of relationships, right? All that suddenly vanishes when we are ill. So, previously, so many things in our life which were so important to us, but if we are lying on our deathbed, suddenly it loses all its importance over there. And one of the exercises which Mr. Tavaria used to make us do was you have to say this is the last hour of your life and sit down and visualize what you would do in that last hour. You can put on the fan, this fan, you can put on that fan. Now, the impressions of smell and taste are very dear to the instinctive center. And when we fall ill, we lose these sense of these impressions. But again, the instinctive center is one center which, if used properly, it can bring great enjoyment in life. That is both smell and taste, both smell and taste. Yeah. That is, we can enjoy the company of people with food, the sensitivity of food, the enjoyment of food, and different tastes, different flavors, all that. Here in the jack lies the memory of sensations, the different sensations we have passed through. So, if we are closed our eyes and somebody puts a thing in our mouth, we'll say this is an apple because there's a memory of the sensation of the apple, right? Animals do not have this gift of sensation. They do not have this gift of sensation. Man can rise into great differentiation in a variety of tastes, right? I mean, so even in an apple, he can also have a different tastes of different kinds of apples, right? One thing which we must practice is that to recall impressions of sensation. And because when supposing I eat an apple and I get a sensation of the apple, but when I recall it, it doesn't come with the same intensity. And it takes years of practice to bring back that without eating the apple to get the same, what do you call, intensity of the taste of the apple. So this is the place where we experience the sensations of life, right? And sensitivity brings great joy in life, great joy in life. Now, sensations can be experienced in two ways. One with external attention and one with internal attention, right? And when we experience sensations with internal attention, right, we are going very deep into the sensation, right? And we are trying to experience the person inside who is experiencing the sensation, and that is ourself. And because whenever we are in a sensation, we are always in the present moment, and that is our presence over there. And that is why sensation, sensitivity is the key to higher consciousness become.
Rajen, I have one question. You are in a lot of pain, and I can see that I'm in a lot of pain. But then what happens? Because the pain doesn't go away. You're like so frustrated at that time. How do you control that? Because the pain is not going away in any format.
Yeah. So first is the understanding that how am I to use this pain. Now if I complain, I waste the pain, right? So I don't want to complain. Now externally I may not complain, but internally I may complain a little inside. But just the very understanding that I can use this pain for a higher purpose, right? And the pain is not going to go away so easily, right? But if I move into the sensitivity of the pain and feel the sensitivity of, and the more I'm in the present moment, I use that pain to hold my presence. Because of this, I have to live the sensitivity over there, right? Then that pain will become a transforming factor for me. Can you understand? So, what sadhana you will do in the world in 3-4 years, in 1 or 2 days of pain, you will achieve it. But there is right use of pain. The right use of pain in spiritual language is called tap. Tap.
So some people naturally seem to have a higher pain tolerance, whether it's physical pain or otherwise psychic pain, and other people have much less.
Yeah.
Why? Why? What is?
A lot has to do with DNA. And that is my observation in pain. And a lot has to do with the DNA. So if you see, the Jains have a much higher tolerance for pain. Much higher tolerance for pain. Right? Whilst we have to take a painkiller. Right? But they won't take a painkiller. But see, for physical pain is one thing. But it is the psychological pain which we want to use. Right? It is physical pain. You don't have to suffer in physical pain. You can take a painkiller or whatever, right? But for psychological pain, you use that psychological pain to this thing, right? Now, if somebody close to us has died, it's not physical pain.
No, yeah.
It's psychological pain, right? And so many things are happening in the same moment. Can you see? I've been connected with this person for 40, 50 years. Can you get it?
Yes.
And suddenly that person is gone. And in his going, you see, the body dies. The pran takes time to separate. You understand? So that person is taking back all his prana from me. And all that is leaving me, and mainly you feel it at the navel. So in that moment, his death, I can also experience death.
Yeah.
Right? So if I can use psychological suffering for a higher purpose, right? The sensitivity of psychological suffering, right? And the understanding that everything has to end in time. right? Everything has to end in time.
So even for so if you have two people who have lost, let's say their mother, somebody who's they're very close to,
Yeah.
one person may take 5 years to recover from their mother's death. Another person, it'll hit them, but they're able to recover much quicker, months or days or whatever it is. Is that a matter of practice and understanding, or is that something that we've come into this life with and
See, I meet my son, right? So at an understanding level, I know there is nothing like son and father. This is the role we are playing in life. That he has come to me because he wanted to express, the soul wanted to express itself in physical form, right? Second thing, I also know that this relationship is temporary, right? It's not going to last forever. So in that moment, I want to extract the maximum joy from that relationship, right? And that is why each moment I will enter into the sensitivity of that moment, right? And sometimes when you extract maximum joy from a, what do you call, moment, it fills you up so much that you're filled for life.
yes,
I don't know if I'm able to come across it.
you don't crave for more.
You don't crave for
You're
more.
satisfied.
You're satisfied.
Yeah,
That does not mean you become dead.
sure.
Next time you are in the same sensitivity, but there is no demand for repetition. Can you
Yes.
understand?
Yes.
So what is going to happen is death has already happened.
Yes.
Can you has already happened.
Yeah.
So when Ramdulare Bapu was in my life for 7 years, like everything was Bapu. Can you understand? Morning you wake up, go to meet him, this, that, everything, every small thing you are asking him, right? And then one day he's not there. The big void, massive void. And I went through that void for 9 months, right? And then when I met Mr. Tawari, I saw him and I said, he has what I want. And I said, this time, no. Can you get what I'm trying to say? So each moment I was able to spend with him, it was like, I was not, it was as if I was drinking him every moment.
Yes.
Can you understand? So I knew it had to end. I knew it had to end, right? That does not mean there is no pain of separation,
Yes.
right? There is pain of separation, but you don't allow yourself to suffer the pain,
Yeah.
right? Right? So you don't fall into negativity about that. So in life, if you can each moment extract the maximum from each moment, that is the king of hearts, what we are talking about. Extract, then there is no hangover.
Right.
Can you get it? There's no hangover. Oh, now I miss this person,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we are fulfilled with that person.
Yeah.
Can you?
You're
That doesn't mean you don't miss him, but there is no negative, what do you call, crying for that person. There's no negativity about it.
Yeah.
You still feel that, I mean, it would be very nice to be with him again,
Sure.
but it's, you understand the situation and there is no pining for it. Can you get what I'm trying to say? Yeah.
Yeah, there's more a gratitude
Right.
for the time you had. Yeah.
So,
But then at times, I think, so in you see sometimes in real life that some people are so attached, જે લાગણીથી ચોટેલા હોય. They're doing so much for their sons and daughters and this and that, and even if little separation, they would like, so those kind of attachments, if you have with somebody and if they die or something happens to them.
Forget death, it happens in the same
Like-
life only.
Yeah, and then they can keep on crying for it for years and years, and they cannot accept the death. So that could be a difference too between two people accepting it, right? So
How many days? About 15, 20 days ago, we were with someone, and then she was, of course, sitting outside, and I was sitting with that person. very close to me. I've known her since, we were in our cradles, right? And all her life she gave attention to the children and this thing. He says, now when I go to meet my son in California, he says, stay for a week, but after a week we get stressed out. Now she's in depression. Okay, what do I do now? Right? Now, if you had lived each moment, you did not give for something in return. You just gave for enjoying the, what do you call, richness of life. That this relationship is there, right? Then this state would never have come. You would have been fulfilled by now, right? There's nothing you can do.
But what is the difference? Because, like, you're bringing up a kid, and then we know that after a certain time, she is gone.
Yeah.
I do not know whether I enjoy, but I also have an understanding that this is her life now. She's gonna go.
Yeah.
So where do that fall? I mean, does it fall that I've enjoyed? Because I don't know. I must be a mom, mad.
See, as long as you
frustration.
don't fall into a lower state, you rise into a higher state of understanding, right? You don't fall into a lower state, right? And the first, what do you call, characteristic of a lower state is complaining. There are no complaints, right? I mean, you brought your children up, you gave them everything, and if they don't return, there are no complaints. You didn't do it with the expectation that they'll give it back to you, right? And sacrifice, there's a joy in sacrificing for the children. You see, it is expanding your consciousness. Now, somebody else is more important than just the I. Can you understand? Right? But sometimes it becomes very difficult, and people don't see. They just see they're so attached to their I. Now, somebody's young son dies driving a car, and you go for condolences. And I'll talk again in Gujarati. કે આ જો ને છોકરાઓ કંઈ સમજતા નથી, આવું કરી નાખ્યું તો આપણા પેરેન્ટ્સને કેટલું દુઃખ થાય. And they can't see that this is self-love. Can you understand? This is self-love. Right? So, every incident in life must take you to a higher level of understanding. And if we, what do you call, go a little deeper, then all the incidents which come to meet us in our life have been invited before we were born. Not the exact incident, but the spectrum of events which come to meet us. I don't know if you're getting it. See, all the events which are possible to man, right? All the events which are possible to man, they lie, say, in one bag. And that bag is hanging on a string somewhere, right? Now I'm moving on this line of time. Why does this event come to meet me? And why does this event not go to meet someone else? But even at the moment when that event is coming to meet me, it is not a personal event. It is happening to thousands and thousands of people at the same time. The same event. Can you get what I'm trying to say? It is right. But I say, why did it come to meet me? Right? Now, say there's one person in the ashram, and he has come, he surrendered to the ashram and all that. And one day he comes to me and he says that every time I go for lunch, this lady calls me all sorts of names. And there are many people in the ashram who have no money. They are living in the ashram, you know. So, but it is their destiny to be in the ashram. You can't say that you're, what do you call, you know, how it is we say, you're living off the ashram. In this I'm saying in good words. You understand, right? So, this lady, every time I go to eat my food, she tells me this thing. સો ભાઈ તું આવ્યો ત્યારે શેની માટે આવ્યો હતો? શાંતિ માટે આવ્યો હતો કે મુક્તિ માટે આવ્યો હતો? Can you understand? So he says mukti mate. So મેં કીધું, if I tell her to shut up, you will get shanti, you won't get mukti. Right? And if you rise above it, you will get mukti. And mukti will bring its own shanti. Right? You understand what I'm trying to say? I just given you this example. It's a true example, right? So the soul comes for mukti. The ego comes for shanti. Right? It's like I said, Ramdulare Bapu used to say, Shanti Kabrastan ma hoy, jaya jai. Right? So, now the soul knows that it wants freedom, it wants to rise in consciousness. That is its freedom, right? To rise in consciousness, to wake up from the dream of life. Now, it knows what baggage it is carrying. It knows in its suitcases what is lying over there. But that is going to lie in the unconscious mind. He can only be free of it if it comes in the conscious mind. And then he's observing it and he's free of it. Can you see? He throws light upon darkness and darkness goes away and he's free. Right? So all the darkness is lying in the suitcase. So the soul at that moment when it is deciding to take birth, it says that what kind of events do I need for this to come out of my into my conscious mind so I can be free of it. And it invites those events in its life. Not the exact event, in this spectrum. Can you understand? In this spectrum. So supposing I'm carrying a lot of baggage of anger, the soul says I want to be free of anger, so it will invite in the spectrum of anger, these kind of events should come to meet me, right? So that I can be free of anger. Can you get it? Now at 5 years the soul goes to sleep, right? It's drunk, right? And then the ego takes over. And the ego does not want mukti. It wants shanti. But the events have already been invited. Can you understand? So he'll say, but you hit me on the road, I got angry. But that soul had already told him, but you hit me on the road, so I can get angry. Now, have you no manners? You're hitting me on the road, right? Is this the way you behave with other people? Can you see what I'm trying to say? Right? And all those events were invited by the soul. I don't know if I'm coming across.
So events can be people too, right?
Huh?
Events can be in the form of people too, right? So
In
people who
everything.
come into your
Everything.
Sorry, yeah.
Everything. Every event has already been predestined.
That's it.
It's been predestined. Why? Because this guy wants to rise in consciousness, but that guy is not there to receive the event.
So what is the difference is if you have a negative thought, you are inviting that bad things to happen faster. Like you were telling us that so how is that different from your soul saying, okay, come on, get that out so that I can move. So I'm not able to understand that part.
Then I'm not getting it again.
Okay, so I have a negative thought. So I'm having this negative thing. So means what I had understood is that you invite that kind of events happening in your life.
No. Wait again. Now this soul is carrying a bag of anger. He invites events which allow the anger to come from the subconscious mind to the conscious mind. He observes those anger and he is free. So by the time he dies, his bag is empty. Okay, right? But now that anger has come to meet the ego. It has not come to meet the soul. Can you understand? Because the soul has gone to sleep. Right? So the anger has come to meet the ego. The ego is never at fault. The ego He is responsible. Can you see? Now, when he is responsible, I give the anger back to him. So I'm now increasing my baggage, or am I? Can you get what I'm trying to say? Right? So all the events have been, don't take them as exact particular events. In a certain spectrum, the soul has invited certain events in our life, and those events come to meet us. Right? Now, in a moment of consciousness, if I'm free of that baggage, it is that baggage which invited the event. Can you see? And suddenly the future changes completely, because the seed of consciousness invites a new future. Invites a new future. Right?
So in the example you gave where the mother is not happy that her son, that she doesn't have the closeness with her son or whatever, if she, her soul, just a hypothetical, her soul may have had that deep lagni, and it's, before it came, it may have said, yeah, I need mukti, I need freedom from this attachment. So it said, okay, there's going to be I will invite such an event out of a spectrum that there will be a time where the son and the mother will separate. Now that time has come in her life, that event has come in her life. She has two options. One is to complain about it, in which then she's inviting more of such an event because she hasn't freed the soul. Or she can stop complaining and try to attach a new meaning to it.
Right. And rise above it.
And rise above it.
Right.
And then at that point, then any such incidents that come, she has learned her lesson. She has learned it deeply.
Yeah.
Is that?
They won't come.
They won't come. They can't
How
come.
can they come?
They can't come. Yeah.
Because there's no one to invite them.
Right.
There's no one to
Invite
them. The person to invite them has to be there, no?
Yeah.
Can you, what hurts me most, because I'm so close to that person, that you see the miserable kind of death it is leading to.
Yeah.
Holding on to all these grudges against my son,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Not just one son, but two sons, right? And you see, you're going to carry all that baggage with you. Eh?
So it's easy to understand when it's not you. But many times when a person is going through something like this, they can't take it in. There's not a window open to even, I can understand in this person, this is what we should do, it's easy to preach, right? But when somebody is personally going through it, it's so hard for that person to come out of it. And they can't even
Very true,
listen.
Very true. And the Guru compresses everything. He compresses the suffering of many lifetimes into one lifetime for the disciple. And a time comes when you don't know what to do. I mean, you just want to either commit suicide or, right? And you go to ask him something and he'll say that, are there still tears left in your eyes? Then still you've not suffered enough. You know?
Yeah.
So you have to suffer till there are no more tears left in your eyes. So, I mean, that kind of suffering you have to go. Right? So, and the real Guru creates situations of suffering only. Creates situations of suffering. There's one more thing. It came in my mind and left. Let's see if I remember it. Oh, you're past 8 o'clock. Right.
So
Yeah.
the suffering in our lives is created by Guru.
Gurdjieff has a beautiful sentence. He says, all suffering is sent by higher forces. All suffering is sent by higher forces. And you have to accept it as a gift. You have to accept it as a gift.
So if that suffering is not being worked on, then it becomes a fruitful moon, right? That's what The suffering,
You are giving food for the moon.
yeah, but the suffering is, does the suffering
You are giving food for the
yeah,
moon.
so suffering being created for you by higher forces or absolute or anybody, they have both probabilities, right? That either you grow or you suffer and complain and go into negativity, so it becomes the food for
It
moon.
becomes food for the moon. Food for the moon.
But what if you don't find a guru, like in our lives right now? Means for us, it's like we say suffering is, oh, I got a pain and I'm suffering. Means we don't even know what real suffering is. And means we don't have a guru who will. So for a normal person, how do we experience that? What you're saying right now, how do we get that? Because in a normal life, right? Means there is.
You get married.
That's what you do.
I think husband is the best guru.
It's not like that. Help comes in many forms. Help. The very fact that we have met, it's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence, right? So I'm not a guru, but I'm definitely an elder brother or a friend, right? So I'm always there. I'm always there, right?
There is one online.
Yeah, we'll take this tomorrow.
Nishant Agarwal. Do the refining, phase, prism exercises directly lead to increase in sensitivity? Will you please revisit some of the exercises for increasing our sensitivity?
See, all of them help, but if done in the proper way. If I'm doing them in daydreaming, they're not going to really help in increasing sensitivity. But one of the best ways to increase sensitivity is when we are eating, and that is expanding taste. So I have a chocolate in my mouth. Now, can I expand the taste of the chocolate for a few more moments, right? And hold the sensitivity of that chocolate for a little longer time, and dissolve into the sensitivity of that chocolate for a little longer time, right? And that is a very good exercise when we eat food, right? To bring on the energy of sensitivity. That is one of the things. And then it could be different things for different people, right? I don't know whether I should go into this, but when two people meet for sex, so there are three parts to the sex act. There's the energy of excitement, there's the energy of sensitivity, and the energy of orgasm, right? Usually these days people rush from excitement to orgasm. But if you can cut those two out, the excitement and the orgasm, and just be with each other, feeling each other, and in that feeling you divide attention and try to hold a little bit of attention on self. And there's just this sensitivity of feeling each other and feeling the self at the same time. That is one of the most powerful exercises for this thing, which I tell all youngsters, that you must practice, because this is the most powerful exercise for bringing in sensitivity and consciousness at the same time, right? So I call that the energy of love, the in-between energy. I call it the energy of love, right? So.
So, as you have given the example of taste, then it can be any senses, right, out of 5.
Any of the
you can just
Any of this.
so like
Touch
you
is the easiest.
touch is easiest.
Touch is
so
the
if
easiest.
you're on the beach and then waves are coming and touching
Listening.
you, and then sort
Yeah.
of you
Now,
feel that
listening to the sound of running water,
water, yeah,
or to a waterfall,
yeah,
right?
or even touching the
Yeah.
waves and whatever feel you have on that
Don't allow
sense.
thought processes to intervene in sensitivity.
sense.
It seems to me that there are actually enough incidences of suffering through the day, if we're in a relationship in general, correct? Like, there's no reason to invite more suffering. We're already inviting it through.
No, no.
Yeah, we're already inviting it.
We leave that for Jesus. We leave that for Jesus, right? But you may reach a very high level of consciousness where you may want to invite suffering. Invite suffering. Because you may come to an understanding of life in a different sense. Can you, I don't know if I'm able to come across.
Yeah.
So, there is a pool of suffering, and I don't want to add my individual suffering to that pool. Can you understand? So, in the universal mind, but this is at a certain level when you are able to see this and understand this, right? In the universal mind, there is like a big lake of suffering, right? And if I'm complaining all the time, then I'm adding my, what do you call, suffering to that lake. So again, the intensity of suffering on humanity increases as a whole. I don't know if I'm able to explain this, right? But when I take on suffering consciously, then I'm taking on water from that lake and using it up. Can you understand? Sure. So it is not becoming somebody else's suffering.
Yeah.
And that is conscious suffering. That is conscious. So then you suffer so that other people do not have to suffer. Right? But that is a different form of suffering. That is a different form of suffering.
So some
Say,
of the people
many
were
years ago, in India there was this rape case, Nirbhay. I don't know if you've heard of that rape case. Now, there were processions out and, hartals and things like that. Now here you have thousands and thousands of people saying no rape, no this. Can you see? Are they throwing out peace or are they throwing out aggressiveness?
Yes.
Can you understand? So in the pool of life, if there is a pool of peace and there's a pool of aggressiveness, which one is increasing? Aggressiveness is increasing. Can you see?
Yes.
Now, is that aggressiveness going to lead to more rapes or less rapes?
Yeah.
Can you get what I'm trying? But if supposing 10,000 people had gathered together and sat in peace, in meditation, that something, whatever has happened, let her further journey, be much better, whatever, right? So we meditate for her, then the pool of peace is this thing increasing and you're stopping future rapes. Can you understand?
Yes.
But man does not understand this. Man does not understand. So we have a pool of violence and a pool of non-violence. And each moment we are thinking, right?
Yeah.
So you have not come on time and I'm irritated. Which pool have I increased?
Yeah.
Can you see, right? So in that I'm increasing the violence in the whole world. I'm increasing the violence in the whole world.
So in that way, it's said that if you have a person who's truly conscious, that person can affect the environment around them. So a person who's gotten over the negativities within them,
There's something called the 1% effect.
Yeah.
The 1% effect,
Okay.
right? So if there's a colony of 100 people, if one person becomes calm and peaceful inside,
Yeah.
right, it affects 100 people. So 1%
Yes.
affects 100 people, right? And in that 100 people, there'll be no crime. The different level of thoughts will change completely, right? So just by rising in consciousness, you are affecting so many people.
Sure.
You're affecting so many people, right? I'll stop with a small story, right? Say in ancient India, if you can take this story for whatever it's worth, there was this town, and the rule of the town was that if the king dies, then a garland is given to an elephant, and he puts it on someone, and what do you call, that person becomes the king. You know the story,
I do, I don't know.
right? And so the king died, and the elephant put it on one sannyasi who was going outside the town. And he came in, and he says, I don't want to be king, but everybody carried him and forced him that this is the rule of this town. So he told the ministers, you look after the kingdom, and he went into a room and did not come out for 7 years. And in 7 years, the kingdom prospered, rains fell on time, people were happy, no crimes, everything was overflowing in this kingdom. And the neighboring king got jealous. So he says, if nothing goes proper in my kingdom, how is everything going proper over there? So he brought his army to attack this kingdom. And so the ministers knocked on the door where that sannyasi was, and says, this king has come. So he said, call the king. And in ancient days, if a sannyasi calls, the king comes. So the king came, and he says, you want this kingdom, I never wanted it in the first place, don't attack it, you take it. So then the king realized that the prosperity is because of this person over here. His deep meditation has caused this prosperity, brought about, his inner being has brought about this prosperity. And he falls at his feet and he says, you take my kingdom, right? You take my kingdom, right? So that 1% effect, it is there, right? So, but this is very important, each moment. Now I get angry upon him, then in that moment I'm throwing something into the pool of violence. And I don't realize that it is going to become somebody else's thought and he's going to go and murder somebody. And it never strikes me that I'm a partner in that murder. Right? It never strikes me also.
So when we say thoughts come to us, you've said, let the thought come, but don't think the thought. So these thoughts that are coming, they are from this general pool of humanity, or even beyond.
Early morning they are beyond. Early morning, very high quality thoughts can come. Very high quality thoughts.
So the direction of humanity right now is an aggressive direction.
You see, man is becoming in a way more and more animal. More and more animal. And the more animal species he, destroys, then man will have to fulfill the karma of those species. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? Right. So that is little dangerous stuff. It's dangerous, right? And if you see what is happening, with all over in the Middle East and even in the Ukraine war, there's what is the purpose of the war? You can't understand. Why this one wants to attack this and why are they killing so many people? There's just no reason only. Right? Even, you can't understand. Is it just the ego or what is it? We can't, and just people are dying. Right? So all that animal karma somebody else, man has to fulfill.
So it almost seems like an uphill battle because you also have inherited quite a bit or have come into this life with quite a bit of baggage from the past. And then you're also trying to ward off this aggression from outside as well. The best way is to continue working.
Only way, because if that 1% happens, then whatever change will come without bloodshed. And if it doesn't happen, the change is going to come, it will come with bloodshed. Right? And for people who can look into the future, they don't want to look into the future because it's so,
thing was last
Yeah, please go
last
ahead.
year, I mean yesterday you told us about this light where you fall, it comes in and there's a coin and you do it
Yeah, yeah.
so I was asking Snan, so you basically do it in, right? Because I was thinking that you look at the ray and the coin is going, so it's not outside, it's within.
Within, you're looking at a ray within yourself. We'll do it again tomorrow. Huh? Just
Tomorrow.
before we start, we'll do all the exercises.
I don't think I will.
Huh?
I don't think I can make it tomorrow. But it's okay. Then
Yeah.
I will look through that.
Yeah, okay.
So the King of Hearts, which is the best card, and once you get to that higher level, the 10,
See,
right, 8, 9, 10.
My whole approach to spirituality is balance between enjoying life and spirituality, not to go into an ashram and become a sadhu or something of that sort.
Yeah.
Right, and that is why the King of Hearts is the
Yeah.
best card.
But once you get to this point where you're starting to extract, finer, you want to improve on the impressions that are coming in and the tastes change and all of that, you can't help, and especially if you're very much observing, you observe the shortcomings that you have. You also can see very clearly the shortcomings that other people have. And it's a fine balance between judgment and learning from that. Because in one way, yeah, you can say, you can see where you've progressed also, where you were. Before, I may not have been getting up at a certain time to do the exercises, or I may have been making certain choices, and now you get to a point where you make different choices. So you can't help but see that. How do you maneuver that fine line? Because as you said, the weakness is that you develop an ego there. How do you maneuver that fine line? Because sometimes that ego is also motivating that person.
You'll pass through it for some time. Because when you have worked on yourself, then you see the weaknesses of others, and you develop a different ego,
Yeah,
which has come through your spiritual progress,
yeah,
right? And that ego has to die.
yeah.
But for some time, that ego has a special purpose. It allows you to see things, and it helps you to make progress. Okay? And then at a point in time, it has to die.
There's also a point where a lot of what you believe or what you believed, it gets shaken to its core. So maybe at some point you believed, this path, this religion, this, you were a staunch believer in that. And then all of a sudden, this stuff starts melting away. And the ground that was solid now becomes quite shaky. It's a very confusing time sometimes for people who are going through that. How do you maneuver that?
You stick to the practices and you stick to rhythmic breathing, right? And I always say that keep a small photo of Mr. Tavaria, and in the morning light a ghee lamp and just converse with him in a kind of sensitivity way, that this is it, right? And if he'll answer. And he's waiting to come back after 1500 years. And he wants to gather all the people who are doing these exercises and all at that time. 1500 years looks very long in our time. It's not even a drop in the ocean, right? So just we make a lamp to him, small ghee lamp every day, and just, right. That very ghee lamp changes everything in the home also. When we light it, it changes so many things around in the home. So when you, in the morning before you go to work, you just light the lamp. And preferably if you can do it between 6:45 and 7:15. That is the time he has given, right? And then just tell him to hold your hand at the right time, and it has to come. It doesn't mean he is going to come or anything, but the help will come. the help will come. बोलो.
We have a couple minutes. So, you go to workplace, you go to you've got, family, you go to work every day. And then in the workplace, let's say, for instance, you've got somebody who's very difficult to deal with, who's got very aggressive behavior, very full of anger. And if, like, you deal with that person, right? They're complaining, they're sort of like a negative person, or however you want to call it. So how do you, you meditate in the morning, you are keeping you have a peaceful mind at that time, you go to work, and then the whole drama starts or whatever, you have to deal with that person. So what are the options, or what's the best way? Either you lose your own sanity and stay away, or like just be quiet. Like, how do you deal with this if that has to happen on a day-to-day basis?
See, for me it's very easy to preach, like she said, because I don't go to work, right? But the first thing is don't react. Don't react. That person is serving some existential cause.
Okay.
Right? The problem is with our ego also.
Yeah.
Right? So the most important thing is not to react. Right? And when we don't react and create space, we find a way out. And usually these are very egoistical people who create problems, right? And they love flattery. Okay, you see, so you have to feed them 1 or 2 teaspoons of cough syrup or whatever. Yeah, right? So the beauty of an egoistical person is usually they are very intelligent and they can see other people's faults very easily. The only time they become blind is when you flatter them. Right? When you flatter them, ગુજરાતીમાં કહેવત છે કે એને મોટા ભાઈ બનાવવું પડે. Right? You and take it as an exercise in dissolving your own ego. Right? And
So you're saying the harder the person to deal with, the faster the spiritual growth.
yeah. And and remember one thing, there's no vacuum in nature.
Yeah.
So the minute wherever your ego dissolves, intelligence will come and occupy that.
Really?
Not intellect, intelligence. And that will show you a very different way out of the whole situation. But if the ego increases, it will increase at the cost of intelligence.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
You can close your eyes, just, and visualize a ray of light from here, going right down through the throat, right down to the perineum. Just do it. And hold the light. There's an 8 and a coin in the perineum with 4 spokes. Put the light in one spoke and rotate anti-clockwise. 1, 2, 3 half, 5, 6 full. 1, 2, 3 half, 5, 6 full. Again 1, 2, 3 half, 5, 6 full. Right? And see, visualization is one thing. What I learned, because he used to make us visualize a black flame over here, and I've not done that exercise with you all. But when you visualize in the perineum, bring the sensitivity of the perineum, that the perineum is feeling there is something over there, heavy over there. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? So, the first time you were pregnant or something, you felt a little heaviness. Can you get what just remember that, and there's you're feeling a little heaviness, the sensitivity of that chakra over there, right? And then do the visualization. So what I used to do when he used to say the black flame, I used to take tiger balm and apply it over here, as if the flame is touching me. You know? So as if the flame is touching me. So then over a period of time you can visualize the black flame. But if you just sense the black flame first, then it becomes easier later to visualize it. So you just sense the chakra in your perineum and you're moving it, and there's a feeling of rotation in the perineum, right? So it is a kind of sensitivity visualization, right? And then it will work after that.
And also last thing that yesterday we did that VAM as boom, right? It means
Vroom. Vroom. So go. Vroom.
So then, when you are working, so if you want to balance all your chakras, so if you want to balance all your chakras, you have to do the similar exercise for all
No,
of
no,
them.
don't do.
No,
I've
I'm
not
just
taught you
wondering.
anything else.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't do anything else.
yeah.
Don't work on the chakras.
Chakras, okay.
If you're working, you go to office, first come into the heart center,
Heart center.
right? Easiest way to come in the heart center is visualize, right? You can visualize your own son or daughter when they were 5 or 6 years old, and just you look at them inside, they're smiling, you'll immediately move from the head to the heart. So I'm just looking at my son and he's smiling at me from the heart. So I move from the, and then you start your office work. So then you're not just using your intellectual brain, you're also using your emotional brain to
So
work.
this exercise which you are teaching us right now, is it to do with just opening the heart, right? Or
Which
it is
one?
the perineum and the
No,
Muladhara
that
chakra?
is for the Muladhara chakra.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that every chakra would have a different exercise for that, or
Yeah, but we are
We are
not
not
we are not
learning.
allowed to go ahead till
Ahead.
certain things start happening.
start happening? Okay, okay.
So once you've done this for 1 year, then we'll add something next year to this. Shall we stop here? Thank you. Good night. Hello. Hello.